So what is a toxic person? Well, you may know somebody who constantly complains about everything and everyone and who is always putting you or others down. But there's more to it than that. To be clear, toxicity in a person is not considered a mental disorder and it is not a diagnostic label. It's more of an informal term for someone whose behavior adds negativity and upset to your life. Recognizing toxic behaviors in yourself and in others can help you with making positive changes to your life. We all have moments, situations, or relationships where we exhibit toxic behaviors. Just because you exhibit toxic behaviors from time to time doesn't mean you are a toxic person. Sometimes a bad situation can make you complain, or a bad relationship can bring out the worst in you. Let's take a look at 7 common behaviors and characteristics of a toxic person. The first behavior of a toxic person is that they are always creating or looking for drama. A toxic person looks for things to complain about or criticize. They are vigilantly aware of injustices at work and in the world. They look for opportunities to be a part of drama, or they create dramatic situations where they gossip, tease, criticize others, complain, or share their grievances with others. They become fixated on how they are wronged by other people in their life. They complain about their significant others, their parents, their children, their friends, and others who are close to them. Being involved in drama for toxic people gives them a high, which brings us to our next characteristic of a toxic person. They are addicted to negative emotions. It's normal for people to have negative emotions. Life is hard and full of ups and downs. We go through a wide range of negative emotions. We feel scared, indignant, mad, or critical of others from time to time. This does not make you a toxic person. Toxic people are addicted to these types of emotions, which is why they go out and hunt for it like an addict. Negative emotions are a part of a toxic person's identity. Consciously and subconsciously, toxic people have constructed narratives where the world is out to get them, or where the world is dumber or less competent than they are. They often paint themselves to be the more stable person in a relationship, the smartest person at work, but who ignored or picked on despite their brilliance. Toxic people also often see themselves as the person with the most problems. Toxic people often see themselves as the victim in this narrative. Toxic people feel a compulsion to share their victim narratives with others, which brings us to our third characteristic. Toxic people use complaints and criticism to get validation. Toxic people use complaints and criticism as a kind of bait to lure you into listening to them, feeling sorry for them, being angry with them, or agreeing with them. Toxic people are energized when someone validates their complaints and criticism. Toxic people share their feelings of pessimism, anger, sadness, injustice, or hate with others to get this validation. For example, you feel sorry for them, angry for them, you laugh at their joke about someone else, or you agree with them. This validation reinforces a toxic person's sense of identity. Not only do toxic people take validation from you, they are often draining you of your own sense of peace, positivity, motivation, happiness, and sometimes your own self-confidence. Which brings us to our next characteristic. Toxic people are those who often take more than they give, emotionally. They get their validation from the reaction you give to their narratives. For example, some toxic people share their medical woes, constantly wanting sympathy. Over time, you can become weary of hearing the same complaints about their medical conditions for which they want validation. A toxic coworker's continuous complaints about the company you both work for can make it difficult for you to have a positive attitude at work. Over time, the complaining can be a distraction at the very least, or it can impact your ability to remain upbeat and positive at work. When you try to redirect the conversation from focusing on the toxic person's negativity to a more positive or helpful perspective, toxic people often exhibit this next behavior. They become resistant to accountability and change. What great story is without a villain? Well, toxic people often construct stories in their head that paint them to be the victim, and sometimes even the hero of their narratives, while make others the villain. Villains are the crazy ex-girl or boyfriend, their organization or boss, or even their medical conditions. They tell you these stories looking for you to give them that precious validation they are fishing for. A toxic person rarely says anything positive about other people. A good sign that someone is a toxic person is that when you try and say something positive, they respond with disinterest, pessimism, skepticism, or criticism. Toxic people often celebrate or even exaggerate their successes but then ignore their own shortcomings and failures. Calling them out on their behavior will cause a toxic person to become defensive. They demonstrate these resisted behaviors because you are denying them that addictive drug they seek, validation. Often, to get their fix of validation, a toxic person may likely aim their criticisms at you, which brings us to our next characteristic of a toxic person. Toxic people constantly criticize, tease, or invalidate you. Do you feel constantly criticized, belittled, or teased by someone close to you? Toxic people love to feel superior to others, and one of the ways they do this is by picking on you. They may tease you, or make stabbing, direct, snide, or passive-aggressive comments about your work, your looks, your choices, or your perspectives. The result is that they often make you feel bad about yourself, or they can make you feel self-conscious, guilty, angry, or just make you feel stupid. Toxic people are attuned to your negative responses and feelings, and when they bring these emotions out of you, it makes them feel superior and in control. But, criticizing and complaining aren't the only tools a toxic person has in their bag of tricks for seeking validation and control, which brings us to our seventh characteristic of a toxic person. Toxic people are manipulators. Do you feel taken advantage of, manipulated, or lied to? Well, toxic people love to manipulate those around them to get what they want. They do this by lying, embellishing, or exaggerating the details of a story, or leaving out information to make themselves look right, smarter, or even the victim. They may also use guilt, blame, self-righteousness, passive-aggressiveness, and other tactics to control people or situations and to get the response they want. Manipulation can often involve making dramatic false statements or exaggerating their emotions in order to guilt a person. You deserve to have supportive and positive people in your life. Life is too short to spend time with people who don't help you be your best self. Learn to recognize these toxic behaviors so that you can try and avoid toxic situations with people. So, what are some toxic behaviors you see in other people? How do you handle toxic people? Please, let us know in the comments below. Share this video with someone you think may benefit from watching it. Please, like this video and please hit the subscribe button below.